us today on the Everyman Podcast. Returning guest, you know him from Periphery and Haunted Shores. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Holcomb. Mark, what's up, my brother?
What's up, guys? Good to see you again.
Long time no see, man. Good to see you. And
loving it.
You know, it's not any old episode of the Everyman Podcast. This is our first ever NFL Championship Series playoff spectacular, and it's fitted. The ultimate Bears fan, you know, one of our guests here we know is a passionate fan, and we wanted to say, you know what, let's catch up and let's talk some football. So let's catch up, man. What have you been up to in these uncircumcised times here of 2020 into 2021?
I mean, much like last time we spoke over the summer, I've been home. You know, I work from home. I work on the band. I work on writing. I work on all things regarding my music career from home. So I'm quite blessed to be able to do that. I can't say I've been without my moments of going a little stir crazy, but that's that like when sports went away, when Rudy Gobert infected the entire NBA with coronavirus. I it was unprecedented because everything got canceled. It seemed like the NBA got canceled, and then flights started getting canceled. It was this weird like domino effect that, from a sports fan's perspective, seems like it started with the Utah Jazz.
Right.
And then everything got canceled. And then when sports went away, I was like, this is the first time in my life, like I have no distractions. Like I got to sit here with my own thoughts. Like I gotta like just get through life without sports. So when everything came back, when the bubble came back, when baseball came back, when hockey playoffs came back, and then, you know, when, thank God, the NFL came back, it was like, okay, let's get back to real life. So yeah, there's an interesting season, lots of storylines going on, and I've been quite clued in to sports this year because of the rough nature of the world and society, and I want to go back to sports. Do you guys feel that way? When shit's so ugly, you kind of want to go back to sports?
Yeah, I feel like you want to go back to sports, but you know, one thing you hit there is just saying like how blessed you are, even given these uncircumcised times, as we always say, Brother Jay. I think the one thing I wanted to get back to, and I think we've done that even like the year of the Everyman that we had, and having you blessing us with your presence to be on, but just getting with your bros, man. Like me and Brother Jay just like kind of rocking it and just staying like super, as Tom Brady would say, laser focused on things. I mean, I think, you know, from that perspective, it was us kind of bonding and just getting closer and getting tighter. And then with like, now you're not a guest, Mark. Now you're like our bro. So like you're in a Cosmic Canoe with us, you're rolling downstream and we're doing this thing. And so, you know, got closer to sports wholeheartedly, but got close to my bro, which was awesome.
Very true.
Awesome. Very true. That's good to hear, man. Good to hear.
It is good to have that kind of escape. And I found at first, like, as you can see by my Rey Mysterio mask and my Mick Foley autograph photo behind me, I'm a big pro wrestling fan, and I find myself not enjoying pro wrestling as much when there's no fans. It feels like it doesn't. This is hilarious. It feels like it doesn't matter, you know. And sports kind of like, I'm having a hard time watching the NBA right now. I'm trying to ease myself back into it, pay attention to it. You know, it just feels weird watching a game where there's like no defense sometimes and there's no fans. It's like, oh, it just feels like an exhibition. It's weird. So like with the NFL, like at least they've been trying to have fans where they can. And, you know, and I think some sports are trying to do that in different areas. So I definitely enjoy it. And I think the NFL has done the best job presenting it in a way that feels seamless for the most part.
Yeah. I would say that I agree wholeheartedly. And part of it too is like, I feel like it boils down to the TV camera angles. You know, like when you're watching, you know, like a Lakers game, like you see pretty evidently there are no fans, or you put on a baseball game, there's nobody behind the home plate. But with football, the way it's laid out on TV, you don't really see the empty arena, and they've got the noise piped in.
Yeah.
And there's something about watching, you know, Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football where you hear these like iconic voices behind the mic, where you kind of just forget that there's 25% capacity or however much, you know, fans are allowed into the arenas.
And I'd like to see the other leagues kind of experiment a little bit more. Like they were focused, like all the other sports are focused on like putting shit in the seats, literally, you know?
Yeah.
And like, that's funny and cute for like a meme or whatever, but when you're actually, if you want actually people to sit there and invest 4 hours on a Sunday or like, whatever day of the week, you got to experiment. And like, I was texting Daryl about it the other day, like the new angles they're doing with those handheld, like 8K cameras after touchdowns.
Oh, that's
It's incredible.
I love that.
And it makes them feel larger than life in a way that it didn't before, because you're seeing the scale of these people, because it's a normal sized human with a camera
right
at that resolution, and just the way that it's, I don't know what the difference is, but it's awesome. And there's a lot of cool new, technology. I mean, just look at how pretty soon Zoom you're going to be able to patch like a whole workflow through Zoom natively for Zoom Pro. I was reading, like, make people in the same Pro Tools session through Zoom, and it's only gonna that whole like technology is just affecting everything right now because of necessity. So that is the one other positive beside getting closer with the bros.
Yeah, those 8K like low level like shots. I think Fox has the slash camera angle where it's like top end zone, but it's like canted looking down on the quarterbacks as they're coming into the end zone. That's pretty cool. And then even when the last playoff game with the Ravens and Buffalo, the Johnson interception, they actually went into the sky cam and followed him. And you very rarely do you see that spider follow a guy.
Well, it just has to like happen the right chance.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah.
It was really cool. Really cool.
So but that's all what the things you guys are bringing up. Like that's just proof that in order to bring the excitement back to sports, like you can't synthesize. You can't just put like facades of people like what baseball did,
right?
Where they left the cardboard cutouts like for the whole season in the stands. And yeah, it got to be a little creepy and really easy to make fun of if you're on Twitter or whatever. It's like it's really kind of just like disarming and weird. But adding elements like that crazy 8K stuff and just bringing the excitement back. And I think football has the blessing this year of having these crazy good storylines. And I think the NBA, although I know you're having trouble watching it right now, Justin, I think the NBA is going to come around because it has this overabundance of awesome storylines, especially with James Harden now.
Right. And now they've spread the talent out pretty well, I feel like, and there's a little bit more parity in the league, than I kind of completely stopped paying attention. And the other day I texted my boys, I was like, guys, when did they become like not good? And they're like, oh yeah, because I was like, oh, okay. Like that's like, I had no idea all this shit has happened, and why they're not as good as they were. Like, I just figured they were still blowing people out all the time. But
yeah, well, now you have the Lakers, who are Golden State level prohibitive favorites, but that's a whole nother thing. Like, unless injury happens, they're going to be in the Western Conference Finals. The East is a crapshoot, but yeah, it's going to be fun. Like, I don't know. I just think those two leagues have it down in terms of how they present.
They're definitely the top two. So before we dive fully into football mode here, so you're working on music. Is there anything new you've got coming out soon, or any cool stuff that people should be keeping an eye out for?
The Haunted Shores record. The Haunted Shores is, my sort of thrashy, heavy, crazy side project. That record's about half done. I recorded about half of it with Misha a couple months ago, and I've written a large chunk of the rest of it. It's just a matter of us, braving these coronavirus times and getting together and doing it. So yeah, with Periphery, we're supposed to get together and write as a band in the next month and a half, 2 months. So,
cool.
So there's stuff coming up, nothing too imminently, nothing happening tomorrow morning or anything, but that we're always moving forward. So
that's good.
So that's good. Later in the year, probably.
Awesome. And, before I forget, right after you were on the show, we had Matt Halpern on the show, and he was a gentleman and blessed me personally with some GGD love. And, I know you guys are all into your plugins and such. And I'll tell you what, I'm new to I'm an old school kind of drummer somehow. And I never really got into the whole drum programming and anything like that before. And it's awesome. And me and my buddies have been, the music you guys hear in the intros and stuff. We've been working on some new stuff with that, so it's kind of all cosmically intertwined. But it's cool to be using. I get the hype now. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I hope you keep using it, man. That's what I use at home too, of course. But I genuinely believe, even if those guys weren't my bandmates, even if they were just some random dudes who I don't even know, I would still use it because it is the best drum software on the planet. So if you're a guy who wants to program drums at home, listening or watching this, go get it. GGD, get good drums. And
That's right.
I have no stake in the company whatsoever. I'm just saying that they're awesome products.
Exactly. That's there you go, stamp of endorsement. So that being said, my friend, let's do a little Everyman NFL Championship game spectacular. So let's start with the NFC. What's going on? You're wearing your Bears shirt. We gotta, before we even get there, we gotta talk about the Bears. So I mean, I'm from the Philadelphia area, not an Eagles fan. I'm a Steelers fan, diehard Steelers fan. However, I love Nick Foles. It's been my opinion that they should have kept Nick Foles. I will die on that hill. Nick Foles kind of came in to the Bears, gave them a little juice, helped them realize they could win with the pieces they had there. I think some of the players gave them a little confidence. Then they kind of had a nice little run there, but it didn't work out the way we wanted it to. So how are you feeling about the Bears, boys?
It's the question is so loaded, Brother Jay. Like there's just so many. First off, like for me, I'm just gonna stay more recent because like my mind can't process getting thrashed by Green Bay like 35-16 and then opening up in the wild card round and getting torched by the Saints 21-9. Right. So like I want to start there because that's where all the craziness goes on in my head. And then like you find out, oh, you know what? McCaskey's want to hang on to Nagy. And I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Like what if it was, listen, you know this, Mark, if it was any other year, as bad as 2020 was with, coronavirus, and then like we had this awesome run where I thought like, dude, we might be getting back closer to 85. This might happen. And then it was just like this pinnacle, and then boom. And then like, all right, we got a shot because we fell into the playoffs. Anything can happen, and everything wrong happened. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I feel like the pinnacle was that wild card game against the Eagles. That was when I had that feeling, like, sure, Mitch Trubisky at the time was this unknown, but I think that was his Pro Bowl year, right? Like somehow he made the Pro Bowl, and there was this feeling like, okay, he's the weak link, but damn, they dominated some good teams that year. They beat the Rams. They beat the Seahawks badly earlier in the season. The Seahawks weren't great that year, but they won some really impressive games. They beat the Packers the second time in that season. They lost a heartbreaker in that first week in 2018. But that team seemed blessed and destined for something,
Yeah.
And that's why when Cody Parkey missed that field goal at the end, it was like, okay, like that was about as heartbreaking of a loss as it gets in football. But at the same time, it was like, all right, this team's going to come back. Trubisky's going to develop,
right?
And we're going to have a fair shot at this. Like you had Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack and Eddie Jackson and all those guys, and last year was a colossal disappointment. So when Foles and Trubisky had their competition in training camp, it was like, all right, I think this will be healthy for him, for Mitch. And truth be told, I kind of do think that he was yanked a little early this season, Trubisky. Like when he got yanked against the Falcons in week 3, was that week 3?
I think it was.
Yeah. He had a really bad first half against the Falcons, and Nagy yanked him. And I thought to myself, I was like, this could either destroy the guy or it could pick him up in a way to where, he sees the absolute low of being a highly touted draft pick is to be benched, I imagine. And I was excited for Foles, but man, and Justin, you say that you think it was a bad move to pull Foles. Some of the football I saw with Nick Foles, under center was some of the worst, like most unwatchable. Like they had a game against Indianapolis earlier this year that was like, it was just depressing. I hadn't seen the Bears play a game like that in
I was
years,
saying
right?
that Philly, I think there's a magic that occurs with Nick Foles in Philadelphia. I think he has that gunslinger DNA, and sometimes he can come in and just light it up, but you never know what you're going to get over the course of 8, 9, 10 games, except in Philly, where he can just seemingly, he's like a commando.
See, I think he's a little bit better than like, Fitzpatrick in a way, because Fitzpatrick is like the consummate backup that comes off the bench and then like, gives you 5 or 6 awesome games. And he's at the, he's at the press conference, got his sailor chest hairs out and the gold chain. And he's feeling it. But then he becomes Fitzpatrick again and you put him back on the bench. I think he's a little bit better than that when he's anywhere else but the Eagles. I just feel like, just like you, Brother Jay, when he's with the Eagles, like that system, the players, the respect, and just something magical happens. But like for us, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say. By
the way, I think he's got something.
See, my thing with Mitchell Trubisky was like I'm a huge profile. Like my job, like when I started NFL Films, that's what I did with the NFL matchup. We profile guys like for production. We profile guys for breakdowns. Like I got Ron Jaworski, I got Merrill Hodge, I got I'm surrounded by guys to do this for a living, and then I played it. So it's like when I'm looking at skill sets and I'm thinking, okay, like how's this guy going to literally get like 1 year of starting in college and then be a first round draft pick and go lead a franchise? Like to me, like I didn't understand that. But then, when you're in those draft meetings and you're on the clock and it's like, hey, who's the guy you want to go with? You pull that trigger, you have to live and die by that trigger. So like, I get it, I understand it, but for me, like his body of work didn't necessitate a first round grade. And I wasn't the only one with that. So for him to have these kind of ups and downs and getting pulled and then, you try to like get him galvanized with competition with older guys and, people like Nick Foles, it's understandable. But like for me, I think like for this particular system, not so much. He's not. I think there's somebody else out there that can lead the Bears to get us closer to those years of the golden years of Chicago football. So
I agree, and I also do want to say though that I see a lot of sentiment like, it's all Mitch's fault. It's Mitch got it there. Like he's the worst. Like they treat him as if he's freaking Ryan Leaf.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know. I have my qualms with some of the play calling, especially down the stretch. So there was some stuff. There was some stuff in that wild card game where I was like, just like in disbelief. I was like there was this play right before halftime, or this drive right before halftime. The Bears had the ball in their own territory with I think 1:45 or something like that on the clock, and they were down 7-3, which felt like 20-3 somehow, but they were down 7-3. Had the ball in their own territory, 1:45 on the clock, and they run 3 running plays, 4 and out.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically it's as if there was it's as if there was 20 seconds left and they just took a knee, and there was stuff like that. So it's like Mitch has proven himself to be better than this. He threw a dime. So who was it? Javon Wims that had let the ball bounce off of his hands in the end zone, like threw a dime from like 50 something yards away.
Yeah.
That was a touchdown.
He can definitely play. I think it's just not the right fit for him.
Make no mistake, I'm not one of the Fairweather fans that say, hey, listen, it's all Mitch's fault and down with him and then the Bears are going to get back to glory. I'm going to say that if he's going to get a first round grade, you have to know what he is and know what he isn't. All right. So is he a solid player? Without question, he's solid. He's got some tangibles, right? But is he the answer, like the leader, the one that's going to bring us back to like that 85 glory? No, that's not what he is. And he does have some elements surrounding him that can help. You know what I mean? But it's not just him. You hit it right on the head. There's some play calling there that's going on. There's a lot of that. You know what I mean? Because there's a difference between playing to win and then playing not to lose. You know what I mean? Like it's just. You gotta figure that out. You know what I mean? And notoriously and historically, when it comes to Chicago Bear football that isn't 85, that isn't the glory years, we kind of get that lull into it, and then we're just like, okay, the play calling suffers. Then there's the player personnel moves with pulling guys a little bit too early and then bringing them back a little too soon. Stuff like that. Yeah. That needs to be more consistent across the board for high level play. Because look, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you're an NFL player, and you have somebody essentially toying with your emotions and your playing career while you're in the heat of the battle, come on, man. It's just not good. It's not good on field play. It's not good locker room, because that's how things get started. And then, it's just like Brian Urlacher, like, he had the back injury, right? And then they pulled him and he gets healthy and then he comes back and he's feeling a little bit good. But then it's like, you know what, even though he's not true to form as what he was during his prime, like there are a lot of other tangible things that he brings to the team to keep that unit together. But then he wants to come back for that last year. And it's like, again, this has already been talked about. You want to offer him like $1 million or less than like his baseline. Well, how do you think he's going to take that as a Hall of Famer? Like, come on, let's just be honest. And what is and the thing about that is, what message are you sending as an organization to everybody, all other 30 something teams, when you do that to Brian Urlacher? His career is over once you do that.
Yeah,
absolutely over.
And that affects subsequently who wants to play for your franchise, which would explain why we have so many collective swings and misses over the years on landing a guy who could be a game changer. I mean, let's not get into off season. Like, I want them to trade for Deshaun Watson really badly, but who doesn't? But I do worry about these kinds of things. Like, who would want to come play in a cold weather town for a team who doesn't have the cleanest track record, like who doesn't have this history of taking care of their players? And you take a look at a situation with Allen Robinson, where the guy is a world-class number one receiver, and he is publicly unhappy with the franchise. And what incentive would he have to want to come back? And other players, I would assume they take a look at that and be like, well, what's my incentive for wanting to come play for a team like that? So the only one I can think of is having a world-class defense, and if they got even Ryan Fitzpatrick, I thought about this before, like,
oh, he's great, man.
Yeah, even a little
he's a good time.
Magic on the Bears would be welcome, seeing
like
that, who could
give you the four most unforgettable games of your life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Run. I love them. Well, Bears, they're it's one of those things. It's a love-hate, I guess. It pushes and it pulls, but I think they've got a good shot at getting it together. They always seem to. At least they're making attempts. They got Khalil Mack. They made some big moves, so there's hope.
I love
Jacksonville.
I love my team unconditionally.
No
matter what. Like, this no matter what being a sports team is all about. Like, I'm not going to go like the Lakers because LeBron's there. I'm not going to go like Tampa Bay because Tom Brady's there. Like, I follow my team. I remember at several points during the season when they lost to Detroit, right? When the Bears lost on that last play to Detroit, I was like, well, at least they'll get a high draft pick. And then they started winning and they made the playoffs. So now they're not going to get that high draft pick anymore. But either way, it's like, I got to stick by my team. It's painful.
You have to. Yep.
Yeah.
But, look at the Cleveland Browns. There they
are.
Oh,
man. Yeah. Same old Browns, right?
Look at my Steelers.
Same old Browns.
Same old Browns.
Yeah. Yep. I can't even begin to get into that. So let's talk about Tampa Bay and Green Bay. So this is kind of like, in my eyes, this is a marquee matchup this weekend. And, I've got this kind of bug up my butt about Aaron Rodgers because, one, obviously 2010 Super Bowl, Rashard Mendenhall, that fumble, just Steelers should have won that Super Bowl. And I got that. And I always there's something about him. I know he's a good charitable guy, which is awesome, but he rubs me the wrong way. So I'm pulling. I think Tampa Bay can beat them. I think their defense last week they were in the right place at the right time, like the whole game. And I feel like they're just kind of in a groove, like they've caught that kind of cosmic energy, and they're like on one of those, championship runs because the way they had to win kind of throughout the end of the season to get in. and Washington wasn't like, I mean, they did well against them, obviously, but they were a tough defense. So I don't know. What do you think about Bucks and Packers?
And it pains me to say this because I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan, obviously, because of my affiliation. I don't like Aaron Rodgers at all. I really dislike Aaron Rodgers.
Discount double check.
But it is scary watching him this year. This is as good as he's looked, in my opinion. And it's in ways that I don't think I've ever seen the Packers play before. Like, the Rams played the Packers really tough, and they were in the game. And then I think he had that breakaway, 60-something yard pass touchdown to Devontae Adams to break it open. And I swear to God, Aaron Rodgers has been doing things like this all season, where their defense plays well. The other team is in the game. The Bears they got blown out 35 to whatever by Green Bay, and they were in that game up until I think the third quarter.
Yeah,
and then he pulled some similar crap against the Bears. Yeah, and he just has this composure and this inability to get rattled, where he'll just pull some magic play out of his ass out of nowhere, and nobody can stop it. And their defense looks good. Their running game looks great. I trust Matt LaFleur over Bruce Arians. I just really like the coaching. The coaching, I think it's a perfect fit for Green Bay's system. And I think Green Bay can win if Tom Brady has like a classic mid-2000s Tom Brady kind of game. But like, I watched the Saints game last week, and something struck me. I was like, New Orleans was playing horribly. Drew Brees can't move.
Yeah. Oh my God! What do you throw, like 3 interceptions?
He threw 3 picks, and he was doing the dink and dunk thing all game.
Oh,
which is his game now. This is who he is.
Yeah.
As a quarterback, and I remember thinking to myself, I was like, New Orleans is kind of giving this game away, and it wasn't that Tom Brady and the Bucks came out there and dominated. They didn't dominate. They got away with it at the end because I think New Orleans just kind of didn't show up. Yeah. And they're going to need a lot better than that to beat a team like Green Bay.
Oh, without question.
Yeah. And Daryl, I know you've watched plenty of Green Bay this year. It's like that team just looks unbeatable.
Well, you hit it right on the head with the confidence that Aaron Rodgers is playing with. I'll take it a step further with just like, again, here's my profiling. You got a quarterback that's always eyes downfield, feet are always moving into sync with his offense and his protection. It's one thing to have like that dissociation of quarterback to O-line, and then it's another thing when you have the quarterback playing with the O-line. So it's like almost an extension of QB play, and he is just moving in and out of those guys like he knows exactly where to go, where to be, keeping eyes down the field, and just delivering straight dimes to people in windows you didn't think exist. I mean, I forget what game it was, but I mean, he's throwing passes falling sideways.
Yeah.
Touchdown. And it's like Devontae Adams and him are just like.
Well, I think Devontae had a touchdown in every game this year.
That's right.
Yeah, but it's just
or maybe it was like he had one game where he missed it or something like that. Something stupid.
Right.
He does this thing that's so frustrating where it's like the pocket's collapsing. He's running around. He's running around, and he's slow as hell too. He's a dinosaur with his legs.
Yeah.
So you just think, you're like, oh God, he's going to get sacked, and then he'll run forward a couple steps, and then he'll just find a window where you're like,
right,
how did that happen?
He was pretty athletic though when he first came in. He was running around a lot, like he was deceptively, and I think sometimes he still sneaks one out every now and then.
Oh no, he does, but it's to that point that you talked about, Mark. It's that we call it what? Pocket presence, right? Like he is the embodiment. It's not like let me think. I'm trying to think of players where like Tony Romo, right? Tony Romo was just like Houdini in those moments. He's spinning, not even looking at people, and he's just creating that magic. Like Rodgers is calculated with it. It's like, okay, I'm here, to the side, to the left, and I mean a window. Like, all right, guy here, and he's just moving in and out of a phone booth, dropping it 60 yards.
Yeah,
come on, man. Like it's as a defensive lineman having to do that. It's just crazy.
You get disheartened. You get like, at least I saw it from the Bears. You saw, Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks and all those
Oh,
guys.
Hicks was sick. He was sick, man.
You get this close to him, and then he makes a play like that, and you physically see it, the body language of the other team, and that over 4 quarters, it's just a lot to keep up with.
It's detrimental, man.
He doesn't make mistakes. It's like even with Drew Brees, with Tom Brady, you can count on some mistakes. You can't count on mistakes. You can count them on one hand. The amount of mistakes, real mistakes, Aaron Rodgers has made this season, and it's frustrating. It makes me hate football.
Well, see, Tom Brady is a different 12. Like, so that 12 is. I don't think he's got that type of pocket presence. He is like, he's the one he's the dissociation I'm talking about, where it's like offensive line. If they're playing well, I'll probably have a pretty good day, but he's not the one that's going to be making those moves to keep things going. Like he depends a lot. It's like, I have my job. You guys have your job. If we all do it together, hopefully we can, but right. No, right. Aaron Rodgers is a special situation.
So you boys think Aaron Rodgers too much to handle this year for the Bucs? Magic is over for Brady?
Yeah.
No, well, a lot is riding on it. A lot is riding with Tom Brady as far as, okay, him showcasing that he can do it without Belichick. Because for years it's always been that, okay, well, as long as he's with the New England Patriots and he's under that system, like he's just going to be protected and he's going to always go to, okay, so now he's got to prove that GOAT, that GOAT tag without him. So there's that riding. And, but then you got Aaron Rodgers and you got a defense that bends but doesn't break, and you have an offense with him that's just like, I don't know how they overcome that. I just don't.
There are two things that you can rely on me constantly every year as an NFL fan. One is I root against Aaron Rodgers, and two is I and the Packers. Not just Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, the whole thing. All the cheeseheads.
I would buy his jersey immediately. And two is rooting against seeing the Patriots and Tom Brady in the playoffs, because I'm a Cubs fan too. It's like I root against the Yankees. I root against the favorites. That's just who I am as a sports fan. I think there's way more intrigue if you're constantly rooting against the evil empire. And that's why I have conflicted feelings about rooting for Tampa Bay in this situation. And as a fan, I think it's a cool narrative. Like you were saying, Daryl, it's like, do we get to see now who wins the Belichick Brady argument? You know what I mean? Like, what was it, the chicken or the egg? Who's responsible for the magic? Like, I think we can all say from a logical perspective, it was both of them. But now we get to see Tom Brady present himself completely unmarried, completely separated from Bill Belichick. So I, as a sports fan, I think it'd be a cool story. I'm not an analyst, and I've never played, and I've never been in the sport, but I don't think that there's any way the Packers lose this game. So that's just my stance as somebody who watched a lot of Green Bay.
You did it. You said story, because here's the thing, Mark, and we know this. If Tom Brady doesn't win it, then he's going to always be tethered to Belichick.
Yeah.
He's going to always be tethered to him.
And this is always going to be a discussion. It's like
a Kobe Shaq type deal.
Yeah, or LeBron before Cleveland won it.
Yeah.
It's like LeBron needed those guys before he won it with Kyrie in Cleveland. It's going to be one of those discussions unless he does it again next year.
I guarantee you, he doesn't win it, Belichick is going to be sitting in his office at home like, I told you.
I'll tell you what, I will only be satisfied when LeBron wins a championship only playing as the only member on the floor of his team. That's me. I'm not even kidding. Daryl knows. I got it. I don't know. He's another guy. I'm just like, I'm all right. Come on. Too much. I've had enough. Had enough of you and your winning. Get out of here. Yeah, but now I was the same way about Brady, but now I find myself rooting for him. So I don't know.
Go figure.
It's just how it works sometimes,
Yeah.
It just goes to show you the significance of laundry, like the clothes that they're wearing. It's like he's wearing different clothes now. It's got different laundry.
Yeah.
Not
so bad in green. Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, the great Jerry Seinfeld says that's really what we're rooting for, right? Is laundry, uniforms.
We're rooting for laundry. Yeah. That's right.
So, okay, we've established, I think, like I said, I'm going Bucks. You boys have made your opinions felt on the Packers. I think those are very respectable stances, and I'm probably just thinking Tom Brady, Bruce Arians. I'm just being a fan. So, Bills Chiefs. I'm a big time fan of Jared Allen, and I love the Bills Mafia. So I'd like to see, and it's tragic that the Bills Mafia has not been able to be a part of this run. Um, I'm personally rooting for them. I really want to see them make it to the Super Bowl. But Kansas City barely made it out of that game alive. If Tyreek Hill doesn't make that insane catch, and Chad Henne did a good job filling in for Mahomes, but I haven't seen officially if Mahomes is in or out, so it's kind of hard to say. But if he's out, I think it's definitely game over. But even if he's in, I think the Bills can beat him.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, we came really, really close to a Browns Bills game this coming weekend. And man, you mentioned Tyreek Hill, but like the balls on Andy Reid with that play, like counting the clock down, making it seem like they were just baiting them for an offsides, and then having Henne snap the ball and then pull off that last play to get that first down to seal it. I mean, like I can't remember gutsier play calling. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. And that, to me, that's kind of what it boils down to. Mahomes, I mean, yeah, if Henne starts the game, you got to hand it to Buffalo. But even then, like, it's just hard. It's hard to bet against Andy Reid in situations like that for reasons that he kind of cemented last week. But I kind of pumped my fist when you mentioned the game, because this is to me, this is the game I'm most excited about, maybe all season, because you got this unbeatable, that at most of the season they looked unbeatable Kansas City team. I mean, they lost a couple times this season. They had a bad, they had a bad game against the Raiders, if I'm not mistaken. But the things that they do on paper, and Pat Mahomes in big moments, he always shines. He never shies away from these huge dramatic moments. It's hard to put my money against them, but at the same time, it's like the Bills do not really have a weakness other than Josh Allen. Sometimes he's not the most reliable star, but I think at this point in his career, he is a star. He's proven
definitely
he can be the man, and he in his own right looks unbeatable sometimes. And I mean, Stephon Diggs has got to be the best new addition to any team.
Oh my God!
Yeah, don't sleep on Cole Beasley either, man.
Cole Beasley,
Cole can play.
Yeah, but like, talk about a wide receiver core that's just perfect for Josh Allen. And I mean, what are your thoughts on this one, Daryl?
I just, again, I got to pull out that profiling hat, and you actually kind of basically came up with my answer there. It's the balls on Andy Reid with respect to the play calling, and I'll say this: we play video games, right? You know what it's like if you play Madden and you're playing somebody, and like you have an all Madden squad, and you say, hey, let's just, for shits and giggles, you just have a regular squad, right? It's like you have all of these. If you're the all Madden team, you have all of these weapons at your disposal, and you can use them however you want to, right? 9 times out of 10, you're going to win that game hands down. It's just science, right? So I feel like Andy Reid is that type of coach with that type of mentality, because he has those types of players at his disposal. Yeah, Chad Henne, cool, all right. But you know what? Ball size didn't change on that last minute play, right? And if we're honest, all season, he's been orchestrating his players just like that, whether it's Travis Kelce, whether it's Patrick Mahomes, whether it's, I mean, it doesn't matter who it is. He has huge gonads when it comes to the play calling. And I mean, he makes the right decisions 9 times out of 10 times. I mean, nine times out of 10. So, I mean, I give it to all the weapons that Kansas City has, including Mahomes, but that's an Andy Reid thing through and through. Buffalo, I love the defense. Again, Josh Allen is kind of like the deciding factor there. If he shows up, we have a great day. If he doesn't, and then it's going to be a situation. That's all I can say. So
there were a lot of games this year where I thought the Bills were in trouble because of Josh Allen.
Oh yeah,
the first couple of years I've watched him, it's kind of been that discussion. It's like he'll show up and he'll have a miserable. Yeah, he'll throw for 170 yards, but the Bills win anyways because their defense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, or because their running game. But that's old Bills. That's old. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's old Josh Allen. But now you have that defense, and you have Josh Allen stepping up. But I kind of agree with what you're saying. It's Josh Allen. If it's Josh Allen showing up and playing like he's played in big moments this season, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be an exciting, nail-biting
Oh, yeah.
game down to the wire. But it's just I can't put my money against a healthy Patrick Mahomes.
Well, the interesting thing is going to be, though, Kansas City hasn't scored this as much this year as they did last year. Like, even
No.
though Mahomes put up good numbers, they only went over 30 points, I think, 2 times. And the Bills can put up like 60 points, any time, it seems like. So it might be a pretty wild game. But even if Chad Henne's playing, I mean, Andy Reid's still going to throw the ball 99% of the time.
Well, that's the thing. Like, so Chad Henne plays. That's when you're really going to start seeing. Like, here's the thing. So
that's when you're going to see some crazy.
Like, you're going to see some really crazy shit, because that's when like the circus is coming to town. Because then he's going to like break that thing wide open. Like, okay, well, all right. Let me just put it to you like this. So I can't use the Aaron Donald thing. All right, let's. Who else can I use? Who can I use? I'm just gonna have to go like. So if you have an NFL player, right, he has an awesome fucking year, right? Just anybody. Like, let's just say Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack, when he first came into the league, like his first year, torched everybody, right? Just around, underneath, through, didn't matter. Okay. Then what do teams do? Like, they game plan. All right. And so the next year, yeah, it's still Khalil Mack. He probably had like, I don't know what the stats were, but I know his second year wasn't as good as his first year, right? The reason being is because people game plan for it, right? So Chad Henne comes in at the end of this game. We've had Patrick Mahomes like craziness all season. He goes down, and then the first thing that you do is just like, okay, we only got a couple more minutes left. We gotta make it through this. Right now, Andy Reid is game planning for if Patrick Mahomes can't make it, and he's going to be game planning shit that nobody's seen all year. Think about that. Just think about that, because if you can game plan for Mahomes all day long, right? You've got tape, you got a body of work. Every year you get the tape from the previous game. You're looking at back, okay, Mahomes doing this. Now they're consistent, and they're 9 times out of 10 they win but still you have that tape to fall back on. You don't have too much for Henne to look at and say, okay, like how are they going to? And it's the playoffs too, so they can bring out anything. They can bring out absolutely anything. So if Patrick Mahomes doesn't play, you still have to go into this game thinking, okay, it's Chad Henne, but it's really Andy Reid, and there's all these weapons, and we don't know what we're going to be coming into if he gets under center or he's back in the shotgun. Like, I'd be scared as shit if Patrick Mahomes can't play, because then you don't know what's going to happen. You really don't.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And some of the play calling from Andy Reid has been big balled,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of gives me this impression that, okay, you got the monkey off his back, won the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And there's got to be a collective confidence, even with the players too. It's like they remember last year they won that big one, and they've got this like winner's swag now, this winner's swagger, and they got the first one out of the way. And I got to think the same is true with Andy Reid.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's not calling plays to not lose. He's calling plays to be clever and to win and to outsmart the other team. And that's what that final drive came down to against Cleveland. I thought Cleveland was going to get the ball back, and I thought Baker Mayfield was going to lead them to a touchdown and win that game. Like, I was convinced. And then Andy Reid pulled his cojones out and slammed him on the table.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing where it's like, I hadn't even thought about that. I actually just said earlier in this conversation that if Chad Henne starts the game, you got to give it to Buffalo. But I think there's something to be said for that, for what you're saying, Daryl, is that you can't scheme for somebody like Andy Reid, at the helm over there. So it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So assuming, I don't want to make too many bold predictions here, but assuming, say, we're looking at a Chiefs-Packers Super Bowl, because I think that's kind of the way the general consensus here. Where do you see this ended, Mark? Who's on top at the end?
That's
again,
tough.
Yeah. 2 schools of thought here. One would just be, beat the Packers. But I still got to give the edge. Ooh, Chiefs and Packers. I still got to give the edge to Kansas City, the proven coach, the proven I mean, it's hard to say that like Mahomes is any more proven than Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has already got his ring. But again, I can't put my money against this Kansas City Chiefs team, man. And you got to know that Patrick Mahomes, unless something is more seriously wrong with him than a concussion, that he will be healthy by the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
2 weeks after this coming Sunday. So yeah, if it were a Chiefs Packers Super Bowl, I would probably have to give the edge to the Chiefs still for all the reasons that we just mentioned.
Absolutely. Body of work, Andy Reid, been there, done that. He's proven they've got a wing. They have that swag like you were talking about, Mark. And it's just like, yeah, I can't go against the Chiefs in that situation. You know what I mean? And if they have Patrick Mahomes too, it's just like, all right, well, he's already thinking what Andy's thinking and Andy's thinking what he's thinking. And they're putting that stuff together. And it's like, okay.
There's one caveat though. The Chiefs had games this year where it seems like they can't put up numbers. Like they've had a lot more like 22-14 wins.
Yeah.
In previous years. And that kind of thing does worry me because it's like, is that indicative of something deeper? Or are they just kind of doing what the Golden State Warriors did when they won 72 games and lost to Cleveland? And then they came out and had a more mediocre regular season, but then throttled everyone in the playoffs the following year. So that is kind of sitting in my mind is like, are they the home run, like constantly reliable offense that they were last year? Or are they just kind of pacing themselves in a way that like a lot of NBA teams do in the regular season and the beginning of the playoffs? It remains to be seen.
I look at it kind of like twofold. One, kind of like how I was talking about, like that whole body of work, right? So they go and win this whole thing last year, right? And they're coming back to it knowing that they have the bullseye on their back every game. So you're going to get teams best, right? And now we have a whole body of work to see how you utilize your players. Coaches, OCs, defensive coordinators, the whole nine. And so you got to think every game they've seen the cast of characters at work already for a whole year just bombing on us, right? So you're going to go in cautiously thinking, okay, here's this body of work. Let's implement a strategy that's going to beat them based upon that. It'll give us a fighting chance, right? And a couple of times this season, they came up short. But wholesale, it hasn't been those dominating, like just totally thrashing games. But I like to attribute that to just that body of work that they have out there, and that teams are just taking notice and they're trying to make it a little bit tougher on them. So
right, people know that if you do your best to contain Patrick Mahomes, you have a better chance at beating this Chiefs team. Yeah, they scheme for him now. They know who they're facing. He's no longer this kid from Texas Tech who he's a wild card. He's going to be inaccurate sometimes. No, they know who Patrick Mahomes is. Yeah,
dude, it's like if you're going to have a trip set and if you're going to have a trip set and you got Travis Kelce in the slot, you know what I'm saying? If there's a running back, if there's a Tyreek Hill or somebody to the outside of him, they're going to number 3. You're going to want to have some underneath defenders there so you can stop that seam ball. It's just how. If you don't, guess what? He either might catch it for 20 or 30, or he might catch it on his way to the end zone. It's just like that's what it is. So, right. And some teams just don't get it. Some teams are they're just going to fall on the sword and die by whatever it is that they believe. And you know what? They're just, I don't care what it is. We're just going to run our defense. And okay, well, he's going to hit his head on the goalpost. So
it will be cool no matter what. Even if it's a Chiefs Packers Super Bowl, even if it's a Bills Tampa Bay Super Bowl, it will be cool and refreshing, just as a football fan, as someone who has no horse in the race, to see a Super Bowl that's not Patriots Rams freaking 10.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like,
oh yeah,
I don't want to see 3 field goals kicked and that accounts for the offense of a Super Bowl. Like I want to see a shootout.
Yeah,
and I think we're gonna get that no matter how these games coming up this weekend play out.
Dude, I want a basketball score. I want can we get 3 digits? Yeah, oh my God.
We'll see it. I guarantee you, boys, we'll see 100 points before Mahomes' career is over. I'll tell you what, man, Mark, this has been an absolute pleasure to connect. This feels just like a couple of boys hanging out, talking about the football games coming up. And, we hope the Everyman and the Everywoman listening to this and watching this on YouTube is enjoying it. If you haven't yet, check out Haunted Shores, one of my favorite music projects, bands, groups, whatever you want to call it, however you want to classify it, because everybody knows you from Periphery. But I'm saying, if you're going to listen to anything Mark Holcomb does this week, check out some Haunted Shores. Mark, thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see how this all turns out. I know we'll be all tuned in. So enjoy the games this weekend, and everybody be safe, make good decisions.
Take care, guys.